Alright guys, welcome back. Good morning, good to see you. Today's crash course, a little unique. We're going to cover parts of a home. In this class, we're going to help make you a little bit more of an informed home expert. You might not even own a home. That's okay. If we can get you to talk knowledgeably about parts of a home, then you're going to be in a lot better position again than most other real estate agents. I actually bought a house. My wife and I bought a duplex before we were in real estate. We still didn't know very much about real estate. I actually just picked up like 2 buzzwords from an inspector once, and it was fascia and soffit. In every house we ever went to, I made sure to point out the soffit and the fascia because I just want to sound somewhat knowledgeable about the house. Over time, I began to develop more of an aptitude and learn more about homes until at some point you really become kind of a minor expert in homes. We're not a home inspector. It's not our job to inspect the property. However, a good agent should have some good clinical information about how to sound more knowledgeable, how to talk more knowledgeable, and steer clients away from some big obstacles and pitfalls. So that's all this class is. You're going to see there's like a 4-page quiz. I'd like you to complete that for homework tonight. It's going to help you become more informed, more knowledgeable, and just kind of have a bigger Rolodex of examples to use when talking with clients about flooring types, window types, etc. And so that being said, let's just get right into it. Parts of a home. There's a lot of them. Again, an appraiser and an inspector are going to be the ones that validate the property for structural integrity and for the worst for the home buyer. But that doesn't mean the buyer's not going to ask you an awful lot of questions when they're in the property with you. You don't have to know the answer to everything. You have to know how not to sound like a brand new agent when they ask you. So actually more important than the parts of the home that we're going to learn is how to answer questions that you don't know. Someone's going to say, hey Andy, is that hardwood floor or is that some laminate product? And you're going to go, I think it's hardwood. It's definitely hardwood. And right there from the way I answered it, you know I didn't know what I was talking about, but because you're nervous, because you feel the need to perform, because you want to think you're adding value, you either lie or you just completely newbie it. This is how I want you to answer any question that you don't know the answer to. Hey Andy, is that hardwood floor or is that laminate? That's a great question. You know, they make the engineered product to look so much like the real thing right now. I'm going to call up the seller and make sure I get you the right answer. If this is a house we end up writing up, I'll make sure you know the answer by tonight. How's that sound? Great, Andy, thanks. And they're going to go on about their business. You see, I thought it was my job as a new agent to be the most knowledgeable, to know the most. And so I would start just pointing out random crap that they didn't even care about. Oh yeah, look at the soffit. The soffit and the fascia board sure seem to collide well. There's no rot there, but there might be some in the eaves trim. I was just making stuff up. I wanted to sound knowledgeable. Anybody who I sold a house to that first year real estate knew that knew homes, knew I didn't know what I was talking about. But I thought it was my job to know the most. And so I would go out of my way to point out things. I would go into a house that had single pane windows, and they might have loved the house, but I would be like, oh, single pane windows, those are definitely not as efficient as double pane glass permeable. That's what we need to be looking for. And I begin to steer the client. I begin to tell them things that they probably couldn't care less about, but I just want to sound smart, so I threw it out there. And then next thing you know, they're going in homes going like, well, this doesn't have gas permeable windows, should we buy it? I'm like, oh my gosh. Because I wanted to sound smart, I now talked them out of half a dozen houses that were perfect fits for them. So you got to use your power for good, not evil. So when I make you more informed about a home, I want it so that you can talk knowledgeably about a house, not so that you can lord your minuscule Bob Villa knowledge over them. Fair? So let's get right to it. Let's look at the parts of a home. Let's start off with hardwood floors. Hardwood floors, I want you to, this picture that I'm showing you right now, do you think this is hardwood? Is this hardwood or is this some engineered product? The ultimate truth of the matter is it's hard to tell. You can't even tell by looking at it. In fact, I can't. See, these are actually hand-scraped laminate floors. I have these in my very own house. They look like 6-inch beautiful sun-bleached floors. But you don't know that now, especially now with laser printers and 3Ds. Now look at this picture of a floor. This is what most people come to see as hardwood floors. It's your true, possibly oak hardwood floors. You can tell that you can even see the nail marks in them. In fact, these floors are a good 70 to 80 years old. These are true hardwoods. But do you know that this picture right here is also hardwood? You see, vendors all want their product to sound like the best product out there. So they're all calling hardwood different things. I like to call this picture true hardwoods. These are these nail marked, these beautiful oak floors. This one right here, this is hardwood also. It's a thin strip of veneer over the top of it. It's 99% engineered, 1% hardwood, but yet it qualifies as a hardwood floor. So be very careful when you're reading the agent remarks, when you're reading that the marketing remarks are, when they say hardwood and your client says something like, oh, can I sand these down? It's important that you know what kind of product you're looking at. So hardwood can come in various sorts. That's why it's just important to say, that's a great question. They make the engineered product to look so much like the real thing these days. I'm gonna check and get back with you. Let's look at the next one. Electrical panels. Again, I can't stress enough that you are not a home inspector. You are not the one responsible with inspecting the home and knowing. But I want you to see the difference between these two panels. You see this one right here. This is what's called a stab lock panel. And you can even see it because it says stab lock on the very top. It's easiest to notice these because they have little orange doohickeys on the breakers. This is a recalled product. In fact, it was recalled because what was happening is that someone would plug in too many appliances into an outlet in the kitchen, and if an outlet gets overloaded, it's supposed to trip. It's supposed to trip the breaker. What was happening is these stab lock breakers weren't tripping, and so fires were ensuing. So it's been a recalled product. Does it mean it's a bad panel? Well, it means that it's been recalled. Bad is a relative term. So it depends on what the consumer is using it for. Again, I let the home inspector be the one that tells the clients about it. It's just not your job to. If your client is a millennial and they work from home, he's a graphic artist, they talk all about how they're big gamers and they're this doohickey and that doohickey, then that might be one of the times I step in and say, listen, your needs for electricity might be greater than this house can supply. At that point, I might address it before they write it up. Let's just say they're an elderly couple that they have an alarm clock and his one television. Would a stab lock breaker work for them? Probably. I never want to get in the way of what a client's needs might be. Listen, if money wasn't an object, if everybody's budget was as big as they possibly want it to be, then of course you'd want a brand new 200 amp, shoot, you even want a generator hookup. But your clients, you have to take into consideration what their financial situation is. You can very easily scare, you might have a $200,000 buyer that wants a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, and you can scare them into submission by never buying a house with a stab lock breaker. Will they ever buy a house? No, because the only homes that are out there that are decent quality product for 200 grand are probably going to come with an older panel. They might come with an older furnace. You just need to know what your client's needs are. So this panel here, Square D, it's the oldie but a goodie. You can tell it's a newly updated. What I want you to notice is, do you see how there's some breakers in here, but there's a lot of spots open? That means that they can still add on to this panel. If the panel was full and complete, it would have breakers all the way to the top. So let's say you have a client and they're talking about, oh, we're going to add on an air conditioning unit here and a jacuzzi there, and we got to get the heat pump over there. Well, if they're on a panel that doesn't have any spots open, there might be a little bit of an obstacle getting that to fit on their 200 amp panel, or they might even need a new one. Again, it's not something that you just point out and say, oh, we got to look for a house that doesn't have, that still has some spots open. That's just not going to happen. Murphy's Law is the moment you tell a client to look for a breaker box that has tabs open, the next 22 you look at are going to be full. In fact, they're going to call you up asking you to go preview homes for them to see if they have tabs open or not. So it's not our job to dissuade them. It's just our job to be informed as to what they are. All right, moving on. Question for you. This furnace that you're looking at right now, is it gas or is it electric? Write your comments below. So silly. Listen, the way that you can tell if a furnace is gas or electric is this is actually a gas furnace. And the way you can tell is you see that yellow gas line? That's exactly what it is. An electric furnace won't have a gas line going to it. Another way is this igniter switch. Now, this igniter switch right here, this is a close-up of what's on a water tank. Sometimes you'll see this on a furnace, but this is an igniter switch. If it was on an electric furnace or an electric water heater, there would not be a need to combust or ignite something. So if a client asks you, is this water tank electric? Is this water tank Gas, really it should be on the MLS printout, but just think, some agents that are the listing agents are as new to real estate as you are, and I don't always trust what they say, so just take a look for yourself, and that's the easiest way to tell. Again, now, what is this big tank on the top of the water heater? That's called an expansion tank. It's actually required by law. In Washington State, every home has to have an expansion tank on the top of it. And those two belts, let's call it seismic straps. Because we are in a seismic activity zone, every water tank that you ever sell required by law to have seismic straps on it. Let's just say you happen to go mutual on a property that doesn't have a seismic tank or an expansion tank or seismic straps on it. That's something you're definitely going to need to ask for in the 35R, because the appraiser is going to call it out. And just imagine if this listing agent hasn't sold very much real estate, maybe they don't know that. And so just something to be aware of. Again, if your client asks what that is, it's not a secondary tank, it's called an expansion tank. That basically means that if the water was to get backed up at the city main, instead of pushing water into the city main, it'll push it up into the expansion tank so it can filter back down. Okay. Window types. There's more windows out there than you and I know what to do with. You heard me talk a lot about gas permeable double pane windows. That's just a fancy word for expensive. So what these are basically is they are supposed to act as a better insulator for heat or cold. In the summers they keep heat out and cool in, and the winters they keep the heat in and the coolness out. The reality of it is, do they work better? Sure. So is it a better product than single pane windows? It really depends. It depends on what your client's needs are. You see, if you get really good at asking great questions, you know the answer isn't good, better, best. The answer is what is good, better, best for your client. So if money wasn't an object, of course, double pane windows should always be better. But since money is an object, it really matters on what the client's needs are. Again, you're going to see some windows that are vinyl windows, some that are aluminum, some that are even wood pane. What you need to understand is this does not make one or the other a better performance product. It's all personal preference. So is a wood pane, a wood framed window better than an aluminum? It's completely an aesthetic choice. Wood costs more expensive, so clearly it's in some nicer homes. What's your client's needs and what are they using the house for? That depends on how the window type performs. All right, moving on to siding types, an oldie but a goodie. How would you classify this type of siding in this picture right here? What would you call it? What would you call this style? You see this is actually what's called lap siding. It's called lap siding because it overlaps. You might have called it vinyl, you might have called it hardy plank, you might have called it wood. No, that is the material that it is. The siding type or the siding style is lap. It's really easy. They engineer some products to look so much like the original, it's hard to tell what it is. So one word that gets used a lot is hardy plank. It's a hardy plank siding. Hardy plank is a name brand for a commercial product. It's like Kleenex is a name brand of tissue paper. Hardy plank is a name brand for cement board. So what this is cement board lap siding on the home. Cement board is incredibly durable. It's perfect for the weather that we get up here in the Northwest. It's going to last forever. It's a great product. Now this next picture, what is the siding type on this one? Well, what you're going to see is this also could be hardy plank. This could be cement board. It's just shingle style. So the style is shingles. The material, it could even be wood. It could be cedar. But it looks a little bit, since it looks so uniform, it looks like it's a cement board type. It might be the brand name hardy plank. All right, what's this siding type? This siding type is very obvious. It is shingle. What's the material? It looks like it's wood. The way you can tell it's wood is it's different sizes. It looks a little bit different coloration. This is probably just straight up stained wood shingles. All right, next one. Yeah, this one's a little harder to tell. This one, it could be hardwood. It could be vinyl. The way that you can tell if a product is hardwood or a vinyl lap siding is when you walk up to vinyl, if you just kind of tap on it or push it in, it kind of gives with your finger. Now, Question the client's going to ask you is vinyl bad? And what's going to be your answer? You guessed it. Well, that depends on what your intended use for it are. So if it's a $2 million home on Gig Harbor waterfront and they ask you if vinyl is bad, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, sure, it's the cheapest product out there to mimic the original. If it's a $200,000 buyer, it's a single mom and she just wants to be in a good school district, this house is affordable, and she asks you, is vinyl bad? What should your response be? Really depends on what your home needs are. It's a great quality product that keeps the home affordable. What do you think? You just have to learn how to answer great questions. Now, a couple other ones. This one's a brick house. This one's called a clinker. What I want you to see about this next one is this is a stucco house. Now, a client's going to say, stucco in the Northwest, is stucco bad? And what's going to be your response? You guessed it. It depends on what your use for the product is. So if it's well maintained and covered well, then yes, stucco's great. If it's been distressed, if it's been tired, if there's lots of room for the water to seep in, then it's not. But it all comes down to your price point. So that's just a rough picture on sidings. I have one more that I want to show you, and it is countertops. Countertops. Everybody wants granite countertops, or they want their granite or their quartz. What's important to know is that a client's going to ask you, what type of countertop is this? And what's your answer? The style is tile. It's a tile countertop. It doesn't matter what the tiles are made out of. These tiles happen to be made out of granite. They could be laminate. They could even be marble. But the style is tile. The material happens to be granite. Let's take a look at this one. What do you think this one is? This one's actually really tricky. It looks like it's marble. It looks like it's beautiful, gorgeous Carrara marble. But when you get up to it, when you touch it, when you feel how not cool it is, when you reach underneath it, you can tell this is actually a complete counterfeit. This is a acrylic top. Acrylic's most popular name brand happens to be Corian. This is an engineered manufactured table. And the way you can tell is by sticking your fingers underneath the lip of it, and you can actually feel that it just feels kind of plasticky. Again, if it's in a multi-million-dollar house or a nice house, if the seller says it's marble, more than likely it is. I'd always just get clarification or proof on it, because sometimes they're making these composites to look so much like the original. If we end up right up this house, I'll make sure to get that answer right back to you. And then this one, you can tell what it is. This looks like it's an annual apartment. This is just good old laminate. The client's going to say, this house has laminate. Is laminate good? And what's your answer? It really depends. Remember, if it's that single mom $200,000 buyer, then laminate's great. You're just thrilled you can get her an affordable house. If it's an $800,000 UP buyer, not so much. All right, I want you to really focus in on this home quiz. I can tell even by this class, some of you are like, oh man, stuff is so rudimentary and elementary, I already knew it. Well then great, it should take you no more than 9 minutes to fill out the home quiz. Some of you are like scribbling every word I say down, trying to keep up. Well good, by the end of this class, you can become very knowledgeable. Take the home quiz, and the next thing I want you to know is what to do to preview homes. So previewing homes, it can be an art, or it could be just something that's completely mundane. If I was to tell you to go out and look at 20 homes, you could do that. If you don't know what to look for or how to measure one home versus the next, it would really be an empty exercise. It's like going to practice a golf swing. If you don't have any instruction on how to practice to make it better, you're just reinforcing bad habits. So what I want you to do this weekend is go out and preview 10 homes. Just don't go in and look at 10 homes and think, oh, those are nice. I want you to look at them with a critical and articulate eye. The way you're going to do that is with this worksheet. This worksheet here, it's actually going to help you analyze and articulate exactly what it is you're looking at. So I want you to walk into a home and then start off just filling this out. We're going to do this with just 10 homes, but I want you to write out the address, put in the MLS number. Then I want you to go to the county's assessor's website and look it up. Is the price per square foot the same on the assessor's website as it is online? Now, as a real estate agent, you do not have a duty to investigate. It is not your job to investigate to make sure that what is advertised is actually true. We're taking it with a providential basis of care that what is listed is actually true. But for this exercise, I want you to get familiar with what's how sloppy some agents are, what's actually reported and what's not. So is the MLS info the same as on the Westers website? What's the price per square foot? And then what's the architectural style? Is it a split level rambler? Is it a tri-level? Is it a daylight basement? What's the siding type? What's the roof type? And then circle one. Looking at the roof, to your opinion, do you think it was in great, good, or poor condition? And now you're going to use the two buzzwords that I actually did learn my first week of real estate. Is there excessive rot in the soffit and the fascia? What were some exterior red flags? Did you see any? On the inside of the house, what was the flooring type? Was it hardwood? Was it laminate? You know, if you're in a house that has a heat register by it and it looks like it's carpeted, go lift up the heat register. It's the quickest way to see what the flooring type is underground. What's the window types? Are the outlets grounded? Yes or no? What's the countertop type? What appliances is the seller saying that's included in it? Are there GFCIs in the kitchen? If you don't know what grounded outlets or GFCIs are, that's good. Just Google it. You'll know quickly. What's the heating type? What kind of electrical panel does it have? How many amps is the panel? And then was there any deferred maintenance? Did you see access to the crawl space? Was the front porch presentable? Was there visible ground soil contact? Was the soil actually touching the siding? Deck rot? And was the house on septic? You go look at 12 homes with a critical eye like this, it's going to make you such an informed and more adequately and better suited agent than otherwise. I am firmly convinced the more homes you preview, the more confidence it's going to have for you when you actually do tour homes. So this is a fun exercise this week. Take advantage of it. Memorize the invite to the buyer's consult script and preview some homes. I promise, guys, we're getting you a heck of a lot closer to selling great real estate now than you would have been beforehand. Can't wait to see you in the next class. Bye.